Zoom will work. So all you guys on Zoom, welcome to the meeting. Unfortunately, since you're on Zoom, you can't win the prizes, but you can learn what Len has to tell us tonight. We have a couple of announcements. We have the folks here from Harris County Beekeepers to tell us about signing up for the rodeo. And they're going to give us also a link that you can use, which we can put onto the chat or something, so you guys at home can see that. Y'all want to do that now? Come up and tell us about it. Here, stand kind of right in here, and then people at home can see you.
I'm sure a lot of y'all have done this before, but the Houston Rodeo starts February 28th, runs for 3 weeks. This is supposed to be a normal year, so we're going to have 2 observation hives set up there. And I have a calendar here for signups for those 3 weeks. Morning shifts from 9 to 3, PM shifts from 3 to 9 every day. So we've got lots of open spaces here. So Jim, you want to tell them some of the other stuff?
Sure. If you're not here tonight and you're joining on Zoom, if you go to the Harris County Beekeepers Association website and go to our calendar, there's instructions. It will send an email to Harrison and you can put your name down. Our full calendar is on there. So all the shifts are viewable and you can see what's available, although pretty much pick your day. There's plenty of room pretty much any day. So please, if you're not here tonight, go to the website, sign up. We do have badges to get you into the grounds, so you get free access to the grounds, and it's good anytime. So you're welcome to come back and just visit too. And if you sign up through Zoom, we'll figure out how to get it to you. So we'll make sure you get a pass.
Yeah, the website is harriscountybeekeepers.org. The calendar tab has my email address on there, so you can look at the calendar, but it's not interactive. So you find an open spot that you want, then email me and I will get you on the paper calendar and on the online calendar. And of course I would need your address so I can mail you a badge. So parking?
Parking, highly recommend that you park at Reed Road. You can park over if you want closer to the dome, but it is bad in traffic, as many of you know if you live in the area. Park at Reed Road. The badge is a free ride also. So you get a free ride over to the grounds and put you right in front of the building. And Ag Venture, if you're facing NRGs on the right-hand side and we're inside the doors and to the left, we'll be in the same place it's been for years now.
Yeah, I think that's Big Skep's been there for 5 or 6 years that I've been in charge of it. Yeah. And if anybody's in the Master Beekeeper program, this will work as a public service credit. I think you can take a selfie maybe, or I'll sign your paper or something like that. What else?
I think that's about it.
Okay. All right.
Need your help. Come join us. It's a lot of fun. And you don't have to know a lot about bees. If you're new to beekeeping, please still come and join us. You believe me, you don't have to know a lot of facts. If you can help find the queen and explain the differences between bees, you probably have as much knowledge as you need, because it's fast paced, but having somebody there just to answer basic questions is terrific. So new beekeepers, welcome.
Oh yeah. And hopefully the queens will be marked. So that's our intention. We will look for them and mark them. So thank you. And hopefully we'll get a bunch of signups here.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jim. Okay, so I've done it before. That's a lot of fun to do that. And the afternoon one from 9 to 3, that's when you get all the kids coming through there from the school. So that's pretty interesting because they come in 30 or 60 at a time when they come through there. Can be pretty exciting over at the old bee exhibit. Okay, so on our mentor program, we still have 2 people who want to be mentored, one who lives in Westview, one who lives in Bel Air. So we need 1 more mentor to volunteer, probably, or maybe 2 if somebody wants to just do 1 person. But we could use at least 1 more mentor who would be willing to take 2 people, or 2 more mentors each taking 1. So if somebody would step up, you don't need to have a huge amount of experience. If you've got 1 year experience, and your hive is still alive, you probably have sufficient experience to help the next person keep their hive alive for the first year while you're learning what to do with your hive for the second year. So don't feel like you need like huge amounts of experience to do this. Okay, so introduce Mike Simmons. He's our vice president. He's going to introduce the speaker today.
Hello, everybody. Our speaker today is going to be talking about pest management, hive pest management. In my opinion, that's one of the most important things we do as beekeepers. Our speaker is Len Van Marion. Did I say that right? Close enough. Len is a retired ExxonMobil Project Manager. He has a master's degree in engineering. He's a Texas Master Beekeeper, a Texas Master Gardener, and the president of the Orange County Master Gardeners. He's also a member of the TBA, Texas Beekeepers Association, and Real Texas Honey. Len kept bees as a child alongside his dad, and sometime after he experienced a hiatus from beekeeping for many years. 20 years ago, his interest was piqued again after noticing his blueberry plants failed to yield fruit with the absence of pollinators. The next year, he returned to beekeeping in an effort to solve his dearth of fruit, but had 2 hives fail before resolving to seriously study bees. The third time is a charm. After purchasing his next hive, the rest is history. He's managed up to 75 hives at a time. He's currently got about 30 with plans to split and increase his number this spring. He tries to sell enough honey to support his hobby. He helps Bill and Wendy, ooh, I'm going to murder their last name. Clet? Oh, that's not too bad. At their Queen Yard in Winnie, over there by where I live. He collects swarms in Orange and Jefferson counties as a public service and writes the occasional article for a local newspaper, which I actually read one. It was a pretty good article. So, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's see if we can get me where folks can see.
Oh, do you have a PowerPoint or anything?
No, I do hands-on demo. So let me see if we can get me settled here. Figure out if folks can hear. I'm not sure. You're going to have to position me so that they can. I'm good. Okay. All right. I'm going to start with, well, let me start by introducing myself a little bit. I am Len Van Marion. I've been keeping bees for a while. I enjoy the heck out of it. It's a hobby. And I tell folks that it pays a little bit better than golf and bass fishing, but not much. So if you're a beekeeper, you recognize that there are expenses, and if you've got one hive, it takes a little bit to just get going. But anyway, let me start with, I don't know how many of you actually test for Varroa and have treated within the last 2 months. How many of you have treated within the last 2 months? I will tell you, if you don't treat your bees for Varroa, they will die. 3 years. If you take a hive, any hive, I don't care which one it is, you put it out, and if you do not treat for Varroa, it will be dead within 3 years. There are no old-time feral hives left in the United States. They're gone. The hive beetles and the Varroa mites, they're done. They're gone. Varroa is the one thing you have absolutely got to test for and treat for. Testing, easy. Quart mason jar. Take the lid off of it. Get some mesh. It's about all you need. I have a little trick that I learned from the folks from the Bee Friendly group that came out to the Queen Yard. Show me a little trick. So when you want to test, you want to check your bees for Varroa, you go into your hive like you always do, and you're looking for a good frame of brood. You don't want to check the mites where there's honey or where there's pollen. You want brood bees. So you're going to look for a frame that's got brood. So you would find a frame that's got brood on it, a bunch of brood. My little piece of metal that I use, a frame full of brood. You just shake it one time. You'll get a pile of bees that'll go over to your little jar, drop them in, put the lid on, take about 300 bees, you think 300 bees is going to be a lot. 300 bees is that little black line about a half an inch up from the bottom. Doesn't take a lot to have 300 bees. Take a tablespoonful of powdered sugar, put it on them, and then just roll it. Roll it around. Roll it around for a little bit. When you get through with that, a white paper plate, roll the bees around, turn it upside down, and shake it. The powdered sugar will come out. The varroa mites will come out. You can open the lid back up, put the bees back in the hive. You haven't hurt the bees. You haven't killed any bees. Take a little, anything that's got a little bit of water, put a little bit of water. The powdered sugar will disappear, and you'll look for a little black, not really black, dark brownish, orangish. You'll look for little spots. If you find more than 9, treat tomorrow. If you find less than 9, you can treat in a couple of days. But if you find more than 9, your hive's in trouble. They're at their threshold. And if you don't treat, you will lose them. Now, treating is really pretty easy. And I've got a little cheat sheet that says oxalic acid treatments. And it tells you the recipe if you're going to drizzle. And if you're going to drizzle, that's easy too. I just use a little cup and a syringe from, this one is from Louisiana Marinade Injector. I just threw the needle away. It holds 30 cc's. So if you have your oxalic acid and sugar solution, and I'll give this recipe so they can put it on the line for you. But if you're going to use the drizzle method, that's all you need is water, sugar, and oxalic acid. It's the only 3 things that go into it. You mix your 1-to-1 solution with water and sugar, put a little bit of oxalic acid, and depending upon how many hives you're going to treat, it tells you how much. 1 hive, it's half a teaspoon of oxalic acid, all it takes. Fill your syringe up, go back to your hive where the bees are, and just drizzle it on top of them. Drizzle in between the frames, in the slat, between the slats, on the bees. That's 30. So then you get another, about 2/3. We'll give you another 20. That gives you 50 cc's. And with 50 cc's, you can put 5 cc's of drizzle between every one of the frames. And that's what you put in one brood box. 50 milliliters, 1 brood box. Now, yes, that's the recommended treatment. However, I am going to leave an article that just came out from the Entomological Society of America just this last year. And what they were actually doing was running a test because there's been a lot of talk about treating more than one time. Treat once, wait 5 days, treat again, wait 5 days, treat again, wait 5 days, treat again, or wait 6 days. And I've heard 5 days, I've heard 6 days, I've heard 7 days. I've heard treat 3 times, I've heard treat 4 times. And they actually ran a test to see if that was effective. What they came back with says that it really isn't that effective. But while they were doing that, they tested a solution that was 4 times as strong. So instead of using 1 or 2 grams, they used 8 or 10 grams per hive. And they found that that treatment was much more effective. So I don't know. I will tell you, I use the drizzle on some of the hives I can't get my truck close to. The hives that I can get my truck close to, I use the sublimation. And I actually have a different rig that I use. I have an inverter that hooks to my truck so I can run a 50-foot extension cord and a different sublimation unit. But if you've got 1 or 2 hives, 3 hives, maybe half a dozen hives, you can buy one of those little bitty batteries that you use in your lawnmower or in a motorcycle or something. And it's not so big. You're not lugging around, a 60-pound battery, but those little will treat about 6 hives before it kills the battery. So if you just got 1 or 2 or 3 hives and you want to treat, this is the way to do it. All you do, the front of your hive, you put the oxalic acid in this little cavity, put the oxalic acid in it, take this and you just slide it. It's made so that it should go into your hive, and you just slide it through the entrance. Ow. Stick it on the battery, and doesn't take long. Now, the only thing about sublimation is they recommend that you wear a face mask because you don't want to breathe the fumes. I will tell you, I very seldom wear a face mask. I've got this thing long enough. I can put it in, set my battery over here, hook it up, let it heat for a couple of minutes, and you'll know, because you'll see it smoke. You'll see the hive smoke. Then I just unplug it. I wait a few minutes, staying away from it, let the fumes clear away. Then I'll come back, pull this out. And if you didn't get complete sublimation, there'll be oxalic acid left. And if there is, just kind of take your hive tool and kind of, if there's any of it just crusted or piled over, just kind of knock it back in there, stick it back, hook it back up, let it finish. And you can leave it heating. They say it only takes about 30 seconds. But you can leave it heating for a minute, you can leave it for 2 minutes, it's not going to hurt anything. The only thing that this thing might do is if a bee walks up to it, or if you touch him while you're pulling this out, you may fry him because it gets hot. It gets really hot. Don't touch it. But you pull it out, and then you wait a few minutes, let this thing cool off, put some oxalic acid back in it, go to the second hive, put it in, hook it to your battery, you're good to go. That's all it takes to test for the varroa, and that's all it takes to treat it. You can buy these things on Amazon for $50. You can buy oxalic acid on Amazon, $10. The only thing I would tell you is try to get as pure oxalic acid as you can. No, there's some of it will be 95%, some will be 98%, some of it's 99, some of it's 99.8. The better the oxalic acid is, the better you'll do, because you don't know what that other 5% is, or you don't know what that other 3%. Most of the time it's nothing, but you never know. And the oxalic acid's cheap. Hell, you get a 2-pound bottle, that's probably enough to treat 5,000 hives. You know, I mean, I've got a 2-pound that I've had for 5 years.
Dan, for our members, the club has one of those little heaters that you can check out.
Okay, the club's got them for you. All you gotta do is borrow it. And if you've got a lawnmower, 0 turn or something, hell, you've got a battery that you can drive up to it. So take advantage of that and treat your bees. I'm telling you, if you don't treat for varroa, they will die. The only thing I use is oxalic acid. There are a lot of other things you can buy. Oxalic acid is the only one that is naturally occurring. The bees get some oxalic acid just by going to the plants. Some plants have more oxalic acid than others, but oxalic acid is already in your hive. Not in the quantity that we would put when we treat the varroa, but it's already there. So, and oxalic acid is the same thing as wood bleach. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and look on the shelf for wood bleach, same thing. I think so. Yeah. It's not, most of the time it's not as, it's probably 95% or something. It might be 98% oxalic acid, but you can get it at, now, legally, there's only one supplier in the US that has gone through the trouble of working with the EPA and getting oxalic acid certified for use on honeybees. And they sell oxalic acid. It's a little more, and you're supposed to buy it from them because they're selling it as an EPA approved product for the treatment of varroa in honeybees. They used to say you couldn't treat when you had supers on the hive. They have no longer tell you that. You can even treat if you have supers. Right now is when you need to treat. The best results is when you have minimum brood, because the mite reproduces in the closed cell. Oxalic acid will not kill the mites that are inside a closed cell. They only kill the adult mites that have already emerged. So the best time to treat is now, before the bees start building. And here in Southeast Texas, it won't be long. Those queens are going to start laying heavy and your hives are going to start growing real quick. I don't know what this year will be, but in the past, now not last year swarms were late. I picked up a swarm last year at the end of May, which just amazed me. But I have seen swarms as early as the end of February. So it doesn't take much warm weather. And the queens are going to start kicking that egg production up, and you're going to start seeing your brood growth. And once the brood starts expanding, you've missed your opportunity. So you really need to treat January and February is the time to really hit the bees hard for varroa. So, yes, sir.
I've heard that when you get a package of bees,
Yes,
you take that same oxalic mix, put it in a spray bottle. Basically, before you hive the new bees,
yes,
basically just spray them like you would do just plain sugar water.
yes,
Calms them down and cools off whatever varroa might be.
yes. Yes. Now, you can, a good time to treat is either if you're buying packaged bees, and let me tell you, there's a better way to get bees than package. That's probably the worst way you can get bees. You're going to have the least amount of success buying packaged bees. When those guys, the commercial guys, put the packages together, they've got a queen over here and they shake a bunch of bees, 3 pounds, into a container, and they take a queen, put her in a capsule, put her in a box. The queen and the bees that are there together have never seen each other before till they put them in that box. If you're going to buy bees, buy nukes. They're going to cost you a little bit more, but you're going to have a hive that has a much, much better success rate. So if you're going to buy bees, buy nukes. And I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about splits, because if you're thinking about doing splits, a month from now is when you're going to do them. I say a month from now, pretty close to that. So if you've got your hives, you've got a hive, 2 hives, 3 hives, you're thinking about doing splits, you need to start watching your bees, because as soon as they start increasing brood, the first thing they're going to do before they get ready to start growing queens is they're going to put out drones. So when you see a hive, you open a hive and you pull one of these outer frames and there's a whole bunch of drone brood, that hive's going to split and it won't be long. So if you ignore it, you're going to be watching for a swarm. So you have 2 choices now. Once you see brood, that's drone brood, you have 2 choices. I say 2 choices. You really have 3. You can say bye to half your bees, and they're going to swarm and go off God knows where. If you're lucky, one of your neighbors won't be hollering, screaming at you because they went into behind the brick on his house, or went into an eave, or went in somewhere, and then he's pissed at you because your bees are now in his house. Although he can't prove that they're your bees, but it doesn't matter. He thinks they are. It's okay. He thinks they are, so they might as well be. So that's one option. Number 2 is you can start watching for a swarm, and you better watch. And when you see them come out, be ready to follow them. Hope that they land light somewhere close. It's not 75 feet in the air where you can actually get them. So that's option 2. Option 3 is to do a split. When you do a split, it's really pretty easy. If you've got a good strong hive, whether it be a single or a double, it doesn't matter. You just, you can go through that hive and say, here's one for this hive, here's one for this hive. And you go through until you have separated the box, but you have to know where the queen is. You have to know where the queen is. You want to put the queen in a new box. So if you're one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. If this is the new box, this is where you want the queen. Because what you want to try to do is fool her into thinking she's already swarmed. Then in this second box, got a couple of you got 3 options. One is if you've got some good young brood, you can hope that box requeens. Good chance it will. A better option is for $6.50 or $7, you can get a queen cell. Take a queen cell, a little cup, put the cell in the cup after you've separated them. And if you separate them on Monday, give them a couple of days and put this queen cell in on Wednesday. It's easy. You just separate, set it in between the hive, put the lid back on it. The next day she'll hatch. You got a queen. Your odds then of having a successful hive have gone to about 90%, maybe 95%. The third option is you can order a queen. The problem with Southeast Texas, it's almost impossible to find a queen, a mated queen in March. It's almost impossible. I mean, you just can't hardly do them. I mean, you can get one out of Hawaii maybe, but you can't hardly get a mated queen in March. You can get mated queens in April or May or June, but our hives swarm so early in the season that nobody can produce mated queens and have them that early. They can't do it. You're almost doomed. You just can't hardly do that. Now you can split boxes and use the old queen and then buy a queen in April and dispatch the old queen. How many of you replace queens every year? Almost all of the commercial folks replace their queen every year. Most of them use queen cells. Bill and Wendy Collette and Winnie, just one of several folks in Southeast Texas that do queens. They'll do about 80,000 of these things. And they do it for all the folks that are coming back from California. Right now, all the bees, 2 million hives are in California, sitting in the almond groves. And when they release the bees from California, about half of them come to Texas. About 600,000 hives will come to Southeast Texas for the sole purpose of splitting hives. They come to Southeast Texas, they'll buy queen cells, they split their hives, they'll leave them here until the tallow bloom is over, and then in mid-June, they all disappear, they're gone. They'll show up in March, they'll be here till mid-June, and they disappear. That's when they head for the blueberry fields and back to North Dakota and South Dakota and wherever they're going. So, you know,
I never have heard of
queen cells. Yep.
Can you get those in March?
You can get these in March. Well, now you have, I don't know of anybody that ships these to you. You have to go pick them up. Bill and Wendy and Winnie have them, and I'll give you their number. I'll make sure y'all have that number. But you need to keep them warm. You need to keep them warm. So if you have a little lunch pail ice chest, it's easy to keep you a little warmer. Take a little lunch pail ice chest, get you 2 Sam's water bottles, save the cap when you drink it. And before you go get your queen cell, go to the tap, get the water good and hot, fill those 2 bottles up with water, put the cap back on them, lay them in the bottom of your little small ice chest, find a piece of styrofoam packing from anywhere, poke a hole in it about that big. Set that queen cell in that hole in the styrofoam, put the lid on the box, and that box will stay warm and that queen cell will stay viable. And the queen cell cost you, last year they were $6.50, I think. So they're going to be $6.50, $7. Excuse me. And these, I know from Bill and Wendy that they are hygienically tested. I've helped them do that. I know what they do there. They go through the hygienic testing. Do any of you know what they do for hygienic testing? I'm getting off subject. And when I run out of time, just say, and I'll quit. Otherwise I will talk. To do hygienic testing, it's the damnedest thing. I have a piece of 3-inch PVC pipe, about 6 inches long, and they will go to their hive. They'll find a hive that's full of capped brood. Take that 3-inch piece of PVC and they seat it into the capped. It's open-ended. And they take a cup full of liquid nitrogen and they pour liquid nitrogen inside that PVC. Leave it there. It'll all boil out. It boils out. Well, the bees that were in that ring are now dead. They log that hive number. They log the date. They log the time. They put it back in the original hive. 24 hours later, they go pull that frame back out and they count the number of cells that are 100% cleaned. And now almost every cell will be cleared, cleaned. They will have cut the caps, pulled the larva out, polish the cell, and it's ready for her to lay in again. And that's how they do hygienic testing. Many years ago, the gal in Minnesota, Spivak, did a bunch of tests. And what she learned was that the hygienic nature of the bees and their ability to cope with varroa was linked. The more hygienic the bee is, the better they are at coping with the varroa mite. Not enough to save the hive, but they're better at coping. And folks have done a lot of work trying to get bees that are more and more and more hygienic and more varroa mite receptive. Some guys in West Virginia sell a bee called a mite biter. And this group of bees is known to actually bite on the legs of a varroa mite. I guess when they're grooming each other, they will bite that mite. And what they found is that a lot of the mites then fall off the bees because they can't grip them because the bees have bit the legs off of them. So they sell a bee called a mite biter. It's damn near impossible to get queens from them. Olivia, one of the big breeders in California and Hawaii, sells a bee called a Saskatraz, which is another queen that is supposed to be really, really good at varroa. It's reported that they can sense a varroa mite inside the sealed comb and will cut the comb, pull the larva out, haul it out of the hive with the varroa mites on it. So that reduces your varroa count. I can't swear to it. I bought 3 queens last year. I have 3 more queens ordered this year. And I do it more for genetic diversity than I do thinking that it's really gonna do something. But I think genetic diversity is a really a good thing. So I try to do everything I can to improve the genetic diversity in my area. And I don't know if any of you have been to some of the TBA conventions or something where they've talked about the importance of genetic diversity. Tell me when I'm right of time, okay? All right. Why is genetic diversity important? Anybody have an idea what they mean? All right. So if a queen, when she flies, if she mates with 15 drones, okay, she mated with 15 drones. Big deal. Well, the idea is that one of those drones came out of a hive that was exceedingly good at guarding the entrance. One of those drones came out of a hive that was exceedingly good at finding pollen. Maybe a couple of those drones came out of hives were exceedingly good at nectar recovery and honey production. Maybe another one or two was really, really good at brood, really had strong nurse bees, so they really took care of the brood. So if you have enough genetic diversity, then you end up with a hive that has all of these characteristics. Because when the queen lays her egg and she releases a sperm from male A, then she releases a sperm from male B, then she releases another one from male C, and then one from D, and maybe another one from D, and then one from E and F and G. So in that package of brood, there's larvae that came from all of these drones. Drone A, drone B, drone C, D, E, F. So when those bees hatch, you've got a little bit of every one of those genetics. So the more diversity that you can get in your population, the better your hives are going to be. Now that does assume those hives that have poor genetics aren't going to make it. If you have a hive over here that they're terrible at finding pollen, well, they're not going to be able to feed their brood. If they're terrible at guarding, well, hell, the damn hive beetles and the wax moths will be in it in no time. So the assumption is that those hives that have poor genetics are going to die off, and the hives that have good genetics are going to survive. So the idea of diversity, the better the diversity is, the better the chance that you're going to have hives that are strong and have the ability to survive. Do any of you run 4-9 Foundation? Do any of you know what 4-9 Foundation is? Do you know what 4-9 Foundation is? Okay. If you go to the store and you buy wax foundation, if you don't specify, you're going to get a foundation. Every one of these little cells, if you measure across the cell, it's going to be 5.4 millimeters in width. 5.4 millimeters is not the size of a pharaoh bee. But the bees are going to produce larvae that fit the cell. Early 1900s, folks in Europe said, red clover is going to be it. Red clover honey is what we want. Red clover honey is, that's the only way to go. The only problem is the bees they had there, their proboscis, their snout wasn't long enough to extract the nectar out of red clover. So they kept playing and they realized that if they stretch the cell, the bee that comes out of that cell is bigger and bigger and bigger. So they produced a bee that is bigger than it would naturally be. Matter of fact, they got it up to well above 5.4 millimeters, but they found out that if they went up to 5.8, 5.9, that the bee was so damn heavy that the wings couldn't support it and it couldn't fly very well. So they went down, and when they started doing commercial foundation, when they started producing it in mass, somehow or another, they figured 5.4, that was the size, so they produced 5.4. So if you buy plastic, if you buy any of the plastic foundation, and I did bring one. If you buy any of the plastic foundation, they are 5.4s. Well, I thought I brought one. They're 5.4. Natural is more like 4.9. So you can buy 4.9, but you have to special order it. Man Lake has it. Some of the other folks have it, but you have to tell them it's small cell. They call small cell. And the small cell bee, if you get on the internet and you start looking at natural beekeeping and small cell bees, 4.9 millimeter bees, you're going to find all kinds of literature how they tell you that they're better, stronger, faster, all these things. I'm not going to tell you that I believe it all. I will tell you that the African bee is a 4.9 bee. And the African bee is taking over all of South America. It's a 4.9 bee. Now it has some other genetic makeup and stuff, but it's a smaller bee. Flies faster. The drones are able to catch the queens quicker, faster, better. So if you have a population where you have domestic European bees and you have Africanized bees, the odds are the Africanized are going to win out because the drones are going to get into that hive. They're going to mate with those virgin queens, and you're going to Africanize your hives. The state of Texas says every hive in the state is Africanized. They used to test for Africanized bees, but as soon as 50% of the counties in the state of Texas had tested positive for the Africanized gene, they said, that's it, the state's Africanized. So every bee in the state is considered Africanized bees. So folks say, well, have you ever heard of Africanized bees? Yeah, I got some in my backyard. I raise them. Yeah. How bad are they? Some of them pretty hot, some of them aren't. But yeah. But folks in South America, they've learned to work with them. They've got them. They produce honey with them. You just have to learn how to handle them. You just have to, I don't know how many of you work your bees by yourself, but if you're Africanized bees, you're always working with two people. And one person does nothing but puff smoke. You never stop. You puff smoke, you puff smoke, you puff smoke. You never stop. As long as you're in that hive, working that hive, you're puffing smoke. Puffing smoke. Got to keep them. You got to keep them settled. Got to keep them settled. But they work them. They've learned how to do it. But I said, well, you got any African-eyed bees around? Yeah, they're around. Yes, sir. Hive beetles. Yeah, they're a problem. You're better in the sun than you are in the shade. And I should have brought one and I did not do it. The little clear CD cases. If you open it up, it's got two little ears that you can tell. If you break those ears off of that, lay it on top, it becomes a hive beetle trap. And the bees will chase the hive beetles into those little slits. Sometimes they'll seal them in. Sometimes they won't, but that little CD case makes a really good trap. I've heard a lot of folks talk about dryer sheets. I have tried them. For me, I didn't think they worked all that great, but my sister has got a hive. She swears by it. So you might try that. So the dryer sheets are something that you can use, and the microfiber cloth is the same kind of thing. The idea there is that they get hung up in it and they get tangled in and they can't get away and then they die. Excuse me. But yeah, hive beetles, I tell folks to squish everyone you see. You know, when you open the top of that hive, be ready to squish those suckers. I mean, yeah, I mean, you squish hive beetles. That's what you do. Hives in the sun are better, much better than hives that are in the shade for whatever reason. I don't know exactly why, but yeah, hive beetles, but hive beetles will kill a hive. Typically, the hives that they kill are ones that are headed down anyway. They've either got some kind of a viral infection that they caught from the varroa, or they've got a failing queen or something else. If you see wax moths are absolutely the end of the road. They're the last predator in a hive. So when the wax moths show up, that hive is already done. It's already gone. Wax moths won't kill a strong hive, but they will kill a hive that's on the downward slide. They'll finish it off, basically. And they're a mess. God, they're a mess. But yeah.
Question chat. One question asking about where is the best place to get the mesh from that you use?
I got mine at a hardware store. It's hardware cloth, and most of the mesh is like 4x4. I think this is 8x8, but it's just a smaller mesh that you can get. I get mine at a local hardware store. Yeah, I mean, you can probably get it anywhere. You need about 4 square inches, so doesn't, you know. I mean, you buy it on Amazon, you probably get 10 times more, 100 times more than what you need. Okay, any of you that need a little bit of mesh to make it, there's a source right there. But yeah. Yes, sir.
So back to the oxalic acid treatments, you mentioned the number of treatments and the spacing of days, and everybody does it different. We know that. So I'm just wondering, we know there's some breeding out right now.
This year, I used the sublimation method and I hit them hard. I hit them with probably 10 grams a box. I hit them hard. From what I have seen so far, it works. It's good. I typically treat my hives twice a year. I treat them in January, February, and then I will treat them again when the brood starts dropping in maybe the 1st of September or something. The September treatment is kind of to get them to December, you know, I'm afraid, I'm afraid if I don't treat in September, then the mite count is going to go up. Because if you think about your hives, in June, a good strong hive is going to have 40,000 bees in it. In December, that same hive is going to have 15,000 bees in it. So if you had 1,000 mites in that box, so you had 1 mite per 40 bees when you had 40,000. If the number of mites don't change and the number of bees goes down to 15,000, you now have a mite for every 15 bees. So I treat mine in the late summer just to try to knock the count down enough to keep me below the threshold. I don't like putting miticides in my hive. Oxalic acid is the only thing that I can put in that box that is natural. Everything else is a poison. And we deal with enough poisons. That's, again, you can read all kinds of stuff. But queens used to live 5 years. Now you're lucky if a queen lives 2 years. So why? Why do queens not live as long as they used to? There's a lot of folks say it's because of the sublethal poisoning that they're picking up. You know, if all of the chemicals that are in the environment, and the worst thing, and folks don't realize it, are some of these 3-in-1 flower chemicals, pesticides. You get fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide, and you water your plant with it. The systemics, well, they go straight to the flower. Then when a bee comes along and he gets pollen or nectar, takes it back to the hive, well, it's not enough to kill that bee. It's a sublethal amount of poison. She takes that back to the hive. Here you get a larva. They take that honey and pollen, they feed it to the larva, where it's not enough to kill the larva. But it's kind of like you hear everybody talking about lead poisoning, you know, all the paints and all the things, and in the water systems, and they're saying it's damaging the kids and causing all kind of problems from the lead. It's not enough lead to kill you, but it's damn sure enough lead to hurt you. So the bees are picking up all of these chemicals out of the yards and the flower beds and God knows where, taking it back to the hive, and they feed the young. And then if you think about a bee's life, a bee only lives 45 days. So if you do something to cut her life by 5 days, She spends the first half of her life inside the hive. First 21, 22 days is inside the hive. Then she spends about 22 days, 25 days foraging. So if you cut 5 days off of her life, instead of spending 22 days foraging, she spends 17 days foraging. What's that going to do to your honey crop? You just lost 20% of your honey production. Well, she was good. She was fine. She lived 40 days. But if she had enough poison in her that it affected her systems and her life was reduced to 40 days versus 45 days, you lost 20% of your honey production. And there's a lot of folks who are saying that's why the queens don't live as long as they used to, because they have too many sublethal poisons in their systems, and they're basically developing problems when they're at a younger age. Yeah. Yeah, and pretty much in the US, most folks will rotate foundation no more than 5 years. And don't leave it more than 5 years. Well, yeah, it won't hurt. That's one of the ways that we just about eliminated American foul brood. American foul brood was such a problem when people did not take any of their old foundation out, and the foundation just stayed and stayed and stayed and stayed. And that was one of the things that they found triggered the American foul brood. If you rotate your wax out so that it's not more than 5 years old, you will not have a problem with American foul brood either. Yes, sir.
So we have an online question from Kevin asking, where is the queen cell source?
It's Bill Collette, and I will leave you his number so y'all can post it. And he has a place in Winnie and Sour Lake. So it's a little bit of a drive from here, but it's not too bad. And I'm sure if you look, there's probably other queen cell producers around. Most of them don't deal a whole lot with public. They're doing 1,000 for this guy and 1,000 for that guy and 2,000 for, these folks that are coming back from California bringing 500 hives at a time on a truck. They're doing splits. They're doing 500, 1,000 splits. No, but Bill and them will sell you 3. They will sell you 3. They'll sell you 1. They're just good people. He has an operation in Winnie. In the summer, they're in North Dakota. So they move between North Dakota and Sour Lake and Winnie area. Yes, sir. There's some work being done in Washington State with a fungal, but they haven't, last time I looked at it, they had not figured out how to actually get it into the hive in a treatment method. But there's some hope that maybe they'll figure it out. But there is a fungal that will. There was another test that was run in Europe where they were doing some testing, and I don't remember the details, but they were using potassium chloride, I believe, and potassium chloride was the carrier in a potassium chloride solution was the carrier, and they found that Well, yes, this worked in all the test hives that they were testing it in. But then when they went back to their control hives and they were just using this solution without the poison or whatever they were trying to test, that it worked there too. So they got to looking and I think it was potassium chloride that they had and it was a 25 millimole solution of potassium chloride. And they were actually feeding the bees sugar water with this 25 millimole potassium chloride solution. And it was killing off but the research they kind of stumbled across that. And to my knowledge, I don't know who's working with that, if anyone. But maybe somebody will stumble across something that works, but right now it's tough. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can use. Some of them, it has to be at least 50 degrees. It can't be more than 80 degrees. You can't have super zone. It's just, and they're all poisons, basically. I mean, they're all some kind of a poison. The oxalic acid is, I mean, it's kind of a poison too, but it is natural. It's not something that somebody concocted in a lab with a bunch of toxins in it. So it's not perfect, but it's as close to natural as I can get and still try to treat the bees. So. All right.
Good job.
This is that study for folks that want it. And this is the oxalic acid. It just tells you different, 1 hive, 5 hives, 10 hives, kind of give you a little hint. And I will get the number for Bill over here and leave it with you also.
All right, thanks, Len.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, we need your mic.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be talking to us all the way home.
Yeah, we don't need that.
No.
How many do we have?
I don't know. I didn't count. What's our number? 11,
And me.
12.
12.
Okay.
It's time for door prizes. So this month we got donations from Better Bee. They're a company up in New York. They're I've used them a few times. I really like them. They have a great customer service. Oh wait, can't have the same number twice. All right. How are we doing the numbers by seats or something? Oh, we got tickets?
Oh, we got tickets. Yeah.
Oh, that's fancy.
Okay.
You mean just draw?
Yeah.
3 numbers. Okay, that'll work too. All right, so I got 4 choices. We got a smoker with some smoker fuel, a hive tool, and a couple hats. We're gonna do 3 numbers and just let you pick what you want. So the first one's 386851. All right, you just come up and get whatever prize you want.
I know, not that person.
That's one of those stainless ones. They're pretty nice. They don't when you leave it out in the hive yard and you come back 3 weeks later after you've been rained on, it's still not rusty. All right. The next one is 386853. Oh, you don't want to take it? 386852. All right. Oh, we drawing numbers all night. 386-849. All right. You take the smoker fuel too. It goes with it. I'm running out of these bee companies are very generous. I'm running out of room in my storage locker.
Yeah.
The last one is 386-850. Okay, we can do two more. I don't know who's going to pink hat though. I should have bought two colors. 386-847.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Come out on.
The lights on.
Oh, no, no. It's in my pocket. I'm good. Okay. All right. Hey, thanks everybody for coming. Our next meeting's in March, third Tuesday. We'll be back here at Bayland. I don't know if we'll be in this room or in the other room. So just when you get here, look around. We'll find each other. And yeah, it was a great speech. I thought Len did a great job. Thank you all for coming. And I guess we can sign up for the rodeo too while we're all here.